Alright. It's been a while since I posted a paramotoring video. I've posted a few just free flying because I've been really enjoying that. I've had a couple of successful flights since my last one. And it seems like all my engine issues have been sorted out. What it came down to is I downgraded my springs from the dual inner-outer 60-pounders, and I went down all the way to 36 pounds. And I'm definitely able to hold the same power levels and go up in RPMs where I need to be, and that takes the stress off the valve train, and so it seems to be working well. I haven't had any issues thus far, so I'm hoping that will keep going. You might notice I'm taking off at my favorite location, which is just down the street from me, if you can call it a street. Reason being is I've been flying in this nice little park in the nearby city, and unfortunately last time I flew, when I landed, I got approached by the park manager person, and I was informed that there is a rule that kind of almost, not quite directly, but it definitely affects me flying there. And so instead of arguing, I decided to pack things up and find a new spot, and I'm currently talking to a couple of different airports, and so far I have permission to fly in two. However, they will be closing for the late fall/winter season in just a few days here, so we'll see how that goes. I have a couple ideas. Hopefully I'll find a nice place soon. And as usual, it's a little bit bumpy. I had a beautiful flight the same morning. The air was super smooth and super beautiful. Please check out my previous video. For that was without a motor. So I decided to run back to my house and grab my bus, which had my paramotor in it, and do another flight. Anyway, I do apologize. My flights are pretty boring. You might notice I'm just doing spirals and just circles around the landing zone. The reason being, I built this thing myself, and I've already had, I think, 4 engine outs when I was first flying it. And so far it seems to be holding just fine, but I still don't quite trust it yet to start venturing out too far out of the way. And hopefully when I have a better spot to fly, where there's fields around, I'll be able to do that soon. Side note, you can tell that my RPMs are pretty low, and it doesn't take much for the engine to have enough power to keep me cruising, which is very nice because one of my flights I forgot to put in my earplugs, and then I started flying around and I landed and I didn't even think about the fact that I didn't have earplugs in. and the motor is really not that loud. I realize it's really loud in the video for some reason, but in the real world it's not very loud at all, which is pretty cool. And so I've just been flying without. I'll eventually have headphones for comfort purposes when I start flying out of airports. But yeah, nice and quiet. The exhaust works really well. It's a nice deep tone, and I have plenty of power to cruise. And we're dropping altitude here to land, and I think this will help illustrate the fact that this is not a good site for flying, unfortunately. In case you can't tell in the video, that field is on an incline towards the pool house, and so you get ridge lift, and on top of that there's a parking lot right there that's gravel, that's on a hill as well, and that hill is pretty vertical. And so when you come into land, go over that little parking lot, and you get a nice little bump vertically. And so, you know, I spiraled around 3 times trying to land, and that wasn't happening. So you'll see what I do to kind of pierce that ridge lift and come in for a landing. So this last time, when I went through the vertical column of air, I pumped my brakes a little bit and I induced a little dive, which actually worked pretty well, surprisingly, and I was able to get pretty close to landing. But once again, you know, I was kind of still carried by all the energy towards the end of the field, and I didn't want to risk, you know, landing by some trees or anything. So I just said fuck it, and I did a really sharp turn just over the field without going and wandering above this parking lot again. And so by doing that, I was able to actually pierce this layer of ridge lift and come in for a nice landing.
Woo!